This is going to be about some people being able to detect radio signals as sound or other phenomena. Yeah, I'm looking into it. Now, I want to point out that when people make a citation and then avoid reading what the hell they're talking about, it's not citation, please, it's another expression. Radar signals were first reported as being hearable by a limited number of people during World War II if they were near radar transponders. The audio was confirmed as being associated with anything from 200 million cycles per second to 3 billion cycles per second. It's intermittent, and an individual that might hear it might not later. People who didn't hear it sometimes heard it much later. It wasn't consistent, but there is reports of it. And trying to figure out what's doing it became kind of interesting, or maybe even important at one time. But people citing some things cite things that don't include any sign of this. 1953, the Soviet electronic jamming and passive eavesdropping of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, the Moscow Signal Incident, was them bombarding the place with microwaves to screw with their equipment and also to hit a bug they put in the building by including it in something nice they gave to them that contained a bit of metal that would respond to audio by vibrating, and they would just detect the movement of it by the microwave signal being distorted slightly. It's the same thing as aiming a laser pointer at a window and being able to pick audio up from it being disrupted by the shaking of the window. You defeat that by having double pane windows and the outer one being one of those gas-filled, double-sheeted, double-glazed panels. So afterwards, DARPA researched biological behavioral effects of microwave radiation and effects on occupational radiation exposure, called Project Pandora. In both cases, no one claimed to hear any audio. Citing this occurrence at the Moscow embassy doesn't make sense. But in this case, Project Pandora also was able to make audio effects, but they stated that controlling people's behavior or making them hear things didn't work too well. What they were able to get away with was making them hear something, but it wasn't intelligible. You couldn't purposely give them a signal to hear. It was considered to be useless for, quote, mind control. Now, you might be wondering, why am I citing this? The idea here was to be able to have a radio transmitter that would transmit to somebody you wanted to hear the signal and then literally just hear it without having to have a radio. But they talked about it being about mind control. Secrecy being done by lying. But anyway, this was Russian jamming and passive eavesdropping. The citations to this incident, or anything like it, in almost all cases, don't bring up Project Pandora, which actually was able to get some audio effects in people. Later experiments. 1961. ALLAN H. FREY. 4-page document. General Electric Advanced Electronics Center, Cornell University, Ithaca, New York. Microwave Auditory Hearing Effect paper. Human auditory systems response to modulated electromagnetic energy. 50 cycle a second test tone. Yeah, that's a dumb frequency, and I'm going to be critiquing things. Bursts of 10 to 70 microsecond pulses. Pulse width modulated. Peak power density versus the frequencies. This is a short list. 80 milliwatt over a square centimeter, dime size, energy level, for 80 milliwatts, 1.2 gigahertz, 1.245 specifically. 0.4 milliwatts per square centimeter at 1.3 gigahertz. 275 milliwatts, big difference here, at 0.425 gigahertz, that's 245 megahertz. And 5 watts, not milliwatts, 5 watts, at almost 3 gigahertz. This would work, and looking up the listing, it's not very clear. Half a foot to half a mile away, you'd be able to get a audible reaction in someone's head. But it was in a room with an ambient noise level of 80 damn decibels. acoustic noise perception, even in persons who were ostensibly deaf. This ruled out electromagnetic energy sensory capability locations peripheral to the cochlea. It meant it was just the part of the ear that's supposed to do this sort of thing with audio stimulus. Here's your eardrum. The bones, let's just draw them as this, and then it connects to the cochlea over here, and it vibrates it. Inside of it is the neurological equivalent to thousands of little microphones, each one tuned to a different frequency by the length of the hair and response frequency range and the resonance effect of this curly Q snail thing. And what did they hear? Because the radio signal stimulated each of the nerves identically, if it did the nerve, which we don't know yet, that meant that you'd hear a hissing noise and you could hear in the hiss a person's voice. It's a very specific criteria, depending on what they did. Maybe it'd be different. It's 4 pages, it doesn't go into detail, and it's incomplete. Subsequent to this, experiments were done to try to see if this was something that they could, again, use to surreptitiously transmit messages. It doesn't work. 1996 through the year 2002, the Air Force Research Laboratory had a patent on double sideband 7 centimeter spherical demodulator radiator patent number blah blah blah. It failed to work, and its fee-related expiration says so. But being super secret, like the previous example where they lied about what they were testing, again, this created humbug. 2007, Washington Post article called Mind Games by Sharon Weinberger. People who cite that, she's citing what I've already talked about. It's not a useful source. A 2010 book called Project Soulcatcher, and another one in 2014 called How to Tame a Demon by Robert Duncan is also not a citation, because they're referring to what was brought up before that. Next, CIA John Brennan, 2016, misquotes and re-edits of what he said, is again not a citation because you're falsifying it. Something kept secret for many decades, or lied about initially because they don't want people to know that they were doing a men staring at goats style experiment with trying to make people hear things and assuming that somebody else might just not accidentally hear it. Perfect breeding ground for conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists and people who exploit conspiracy theory believers. And we're going to get to the crux of the video. Over 9,000 people in the United States hearing voices in their heads and feeling things they say are caused from other sources that can't be in my head. Self-identifying as targeted individuals, being gang-stalked by governments, God, dead relatives, aliens, etc. People with paranoia symptoms who have hit upon an explanation of what is happening to them. Find an extensive online mind control fear support network. Not an emotional support network. Groupthink or cognitive therapy. Maybe it's both. Most of these individuals that I've run into will state everything they believe is fact without any proof or debate on the subject, and will become extremely agitated and angry with you for pointing out that they're literally misquoting a science paper. The science paper came to an interesting conclusion that people will not read. I can hand it to them. I did it one time. A 2-inch square of metal fly screen can act as a shield over your temple and cuts off the RF-induced sound. It interferes with it completely. A go-no-go test for a person who claims they're not hearing voices is to do something simple. Walk them into a room and them being told it's a Faraday cage, there's no radio signals able to get in and out. And they're still hearing it. And then you ask them, have you ever been prescribed medication? Yes. Did it get rid of the voices? Yes. We're done. Me, from personal experience, it's very painful, trying to help someone who went out of their way every time I offered a solution to basically say something. A lot of you are going to get angry at me for saying this. The person just wanted to be listened to. They didn't want me mansplaining how to fix the problem. You claim you have a problem that's killing you and makes you want to kill yourself, and me explaining how to make it go away or find out how is suddenly interference and unwanted help. All the way to saying, you're one of the people doing it to me. And I had a gun pulled on me at one time. Someone tried to run me off the road with their car. And I was literally stalked, not gang stalked. Gang stalked is a bullshit term, don't use it. Stalked for 2 years by a person. In my professional life doing security work, I have found one, maybe two, I can't confirm the last one, incidents out of literally several hundred people saying they were being harassed electronically. That's a code word for radio signals and ray beams, not just over the internet. I only found one incident where it was actually a combination of literally just fucking with someone, actually being stalking him, and screwing with him over the internet. And another incident where it was absolutely the person being just screwed with, but neither case showed any sign of anybody using a microwave oven with the lid ripped off or anything. At least not really. One of them's kind of, I'm going to call it yes. Out of potentially, I actually counted at one time, it was just under 1,000 individuals that had me do this kind of investigative work. And I have been stalked more than once, actually, but one major one for 2 years, and harassed. I have been told to go to hell when I found out that the person really should just be taking medication, or probably should improve their diet to get rid of vitamin-induced neurological issues they were having that was causing audio popping noises. I have been able to do a real simple go-no-go test with that. Number one, you do the Faraday cage room. It's bug screen on the walls. I've wallpapered a person's room that way, and weeks later, nope, it's still happening, so it's not a radio signal. Thank you for clearing that up. They went back and got their meds, and they were okay. The medication wasn't mind medication. It was because they had a borderline, spastic problem. They could have had convulsions. Giving them something that was an anti-epileptic medication fixed it. It's probably just the nerve endings in the ear. It's a really sore subject with me sometimes. Anyway, keeping secrets for a decade or lying about what your true intentions are, perfect breeding ground for conspiracy theories and mistrust, and also conspiracy theorists have plenty of ammunition to work with. List of citations, which I don't normally discuss really quickly. I'm going to do it. Microwave auditory effect. Wikipedia article. The Mind Game article from 2007 citation. Notable crimes committed by people who claim to be targeted individuals. I want to point out that some people who claim to be put upon, who want you to listen to them cry about being harassed, turn out to be harassers and stalkers themselves, and it's like that joke that every accusation from a bad person is almost a confession of what they're going to do or already doing. A patent number in Google Patents that is supposed to be cited a bunch of times, but everyone forgets to give you the patent number and says that it's somehow hidden. This is the one from the U.S. Navy or whatever that people cite. It discusses hypotheticals, and again, it was dropped, and it didn't work. John Brennan and his speech that people keep misinterpreting from 2016, a link in a article. It has a complete transcript. ALLAN H. FREY's actual 1961 work archived below. U.S. Air Force patent, etc. Let's talk about the UN Human Rights patent links list provided by TIs that point to shit like blenders. That's not an attack weapon. Claiming directed energy weapons when some of these things aren't. Feel free to cite them. Conclusion. When people aggressively do not want to become better off, if they claim that they're going through something very hurtful and they just want you to sit and listen. Yeah, some of you out there are already making a link to something I heard from someone at one point that got me into trouble in an argument, and then I had to sleep in the doghouse. The point is, this behavior doesn't solve a problem. Vacillating back and forth and refusing to accept help, and most importantly, refusing to accept that you might not need it. I don't know how to. I can't solve those kind of problems because I'm not allowed to. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And if any of you want to have me help you, be nice about it.